Come and make a Labubu with me. This is a real Labubu, and I ordered a kit to make the secret id Labubu. It didn't come with much sewing instructions, so I'm going to make a video. First, I cut out the patterns, and I'm just going to use a piece of white fleece to practice on. Okay, so I've cut out all my pieces, and there's a bit of scrap left, so I'm going to put it in a plastic bag and see if I need it for anything else before I throw it away. And with fur, it can get a little messy, so just kind of go through the edges and fluff it out. You might have some remnants. Yeah, so do that first before you start. Now that we have everything cut out, we're going to start sewing. I'm going to do a hybrid of machine sewing and hand sewing. So we're going to first put the ears onto the back right here, and there's a dart here, so we'll sew the dart together. And then we're going to sew just up to here on the top and up to here on the bottom so that you have an opening in between. Now the back of the head has been sewn with the hole opening. I think the trickiest part was figuring out which side of the ear should be on which side. So as a tip, this is usually on this side, the lighter gray. So what helped me was I flipped it, and then I just made sure that this ear is angling the same direction. Okay, so now the front of the head, we're going to put these, the two short seams together. And in the same way, we're going to take up 1/8 of an inch of a seam allowance. Let me remove the pins. Make sure we move the thread out of the way. Put your foot down. Okay, now you have a circle. Now you get the back of the face or the head, and we can line it up. So I like to make a notch in the middle. So this is our middle, and I just cut a little bit of a notch away so I know which is the center, and that helps me line up the back and the front. So this is the center, and this is the center. So the kit came with some of these plastic clips. So we can use that clip to help us line up the seams for the front and the back of the head. I have a whole box. I think the kit came with like 5, but oh wait, let me reverse. So before we put that on, the video did have us sew the embroidered part of the ears on. So we're gonna go ahead and sew these on, just on the outside edges, not sewing the bottom, just the outside edges. So I'll be right back. Okay, I got the embroidered ear pieces sewn on to the front pieces, sewn onto the back pieces. I started sewing on the cleaner side, so it's easier to see, but I had to reverse it just to see if I missed any spots, and I did. So I went back and I stitched it again, just so that's not gonna fall apart. Okay, so I've clipped all of the circumference, I guess, of the front of the face to the back of the face or the head. And just note, like, this is an extra piece from the embroidered ear. I'm just gonna go ahead and just leave that and just sew like kind of around that. So I'll be back. Okay, finished sewing. Just a note, when you're sewing the ear part, make sure you're flipping it down so that you are leaving like a tunnel to flip the ears out later, if that makes sense. So here's what it looks like flipped inside out. So yeah, if you're sewing it and you're not flipping it, then you're not going to be able to have a tunnel to flip it later. Does that make sense? So I'm going to use something, I'm going to get a tool to flip it. My tool just happens to be the end of a tweezer. So I'm just going to use that to help poke it out. Look how cute that is. Find my tunnel here. Okay, the tunnel is not only important for you to be able to flip it, but also to stuff it. You know, I forgot one thing. I forgot to put the loop in here, so let me unstitch it and then put the loop in so that we can have something to hang our keychain on later. Okay, so now that I have the little tab on, I sewed it in between this layer right here. It's time for the face. And I think that's going to be a hand stitching stage. So let me grab my needle and thread, and I will try to show you how to sew it, maybe portion of it. So this is the needle that came with the kit. It's pretty long needle compared to what I'm used to, and then this is the roll of thread. So I'm going to see if it works. If not, then I'll switch out the needles. But first, let's line up the face with the fur. So I have the pointy part centered with the other pointy part on the face. And I'm going to use some clips to get it attached. So I like to do the top center and then the bottom center, just so that the rest of the face will be even. And then we'll get the sides. Just make sure you pull it in, so it gives it enough seam allowance when you're sewing. Okay, so starting the sewing process, I did double my thread and knotted at the end. It's going to be a little tricky, I think, trying to get the needle through the hole. I'm going to have to go through with an awl in each of the, like pre-punch a hole in each of the awl with awl. Well, maybe this is going to work. Okay, so the needle went through. This might take a while. There's like tiny little holes that's like pre-punched inside the face. So I'm going to try my best to follow the holes. Sorry, the camera's shaking. Let's see. It's going to go back and forth. Hopefully that'll work, because the stitching's, the little spacing's pretty tight. So hopefully that will hold the face in place. Okay, so I'm going to do this to the rest of the face and I'll be back. So here's the face. I finished sewing the inside of it. It took about like 30 to 40 minutes. Here's what it looks like from the inside. So you can see I sewed it really close together, each stitch, so that it looks nice and neat. Okay, so here we are. We have the head. It's been stuffed. I left the opening open so that we can figure out how to put in the swivel for the neck. But the next step I'm going to be working on would be the body. Okay, for the body, the pattern says, the video said to sew this part on. Like, so this is the middle part. You're going to sew a dart here, and then the arms will be attached here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so we have the front sewn. So we've sewn this part of the body, and these are the arms. The next step would be sewing the back. So we're going to sew the darts together. The darts would be this part. And then we're going to sew the legs in like this. Okay, so the seam, the dart of the leg has been sewn. And I think before we close up the leg, there's this piece called an ankle lining. Let's see if I can find the other piece. So it's called the ankle lining. So I think that's going to help. It's going to help with like closing up the space when we put the feet in. So that's where your leg's gonna be formed, is right here once you sew it. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and sew the right sides together for the ankle lining. I think the bigger one goes on top, yes. Okay, so I'm gonna sew this part together and it's gonna flip like this. So the ankle lining's been sewn. So the next step I'm gonna do is just probably flip it and then sew it along the side. Okay, so once I have the back sewn with the legs, this is what it looks like. So the lining tucks in, and then now I'm gonna put the two panels together. I'm going back to the arms. I added this arm lining so that it helps when you like flip over the seam that it's not the raw seam. So we'll brush that out. So the next step is I'm gonna close up the sleeves right here, the arms, and then we'll connect it to the front of the body to the back of the body. Okay, so I've clipped the front and the back together. Notice at the back I left a hole so that we can stuff it later. But I pretty much, it's kind of hard to explain, but I started from the top of the arm and I followed the seams to clip along the body. So you'll have to just play around with this part and then try your best to sew it together without having any gaps. I'll be right back. Okay, now I've got the head sewn and now the body sewn. The tricky part about the body was making sure that all the seams were sewn and there was no holes. So you have to like kind of poke your finger through and just guide it through and make sure there's no opening that was like accidentally left open, because with the fur it's kind of hard to see where the sewing lines were. So I think the next step would be connecting the head to the body. Well, actually, let me connect the arms, the hands, and the feet. In the video that they sent me, the arms, the hand was like put in like this, but she like flipped it inside out to like attach it. So in the video, she did put the arms like here, and then she did sew like this part tight so it doesn't fall out. And we just want to make sure that you have your thumb facing up, because you know, then you'll have upside down hands if you don't make sure. Okay, so I have my needle on to the thread, and I think this is where the arm lining comes in handy. It gives you a little bit of extra working space, because then I feel like the arm would be too short if we didn't have that little extra piece. And I'm just stitching it, kind of making a little bit of a running stitch, if you call that, and just helping it like kind of tighten up. See how like kind of tighten up a little bit once I pulled the thread. So that will help the arm stay put. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that a few more times. And then you can kind of turn it inside out, or like the right side out. Make sure that it's kind of like stitched in. You can kind of give it a tug, not too hard because we haven't put the washer on yet. But once you feel like it's good, then go ahead and trim your thread. Get the thread. And then the kit came with these washers that you can put to help the arms not fall out. So I would put the wide side towards the fabric and make sure it's good. I think once you snap, oh, this is not snapping on. Maybe you just gotta wiggle this a little bit more, give it some space. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so I ended up just flipping it the other way and used a lot of like force to like push it on. So yeah, good luck with that. So I'm gonna do the other arm and then the feet. I'll be back. Okay, all the feet has been attached and the arms have been attached. So I'll turn it inside out so you can see what it looks like. Okay, here's the body with the arms and the feet turned inside out. So the package came with some wires. I'm going to trim the wires so that it like fits across the body, and then maybe something like down the leg. So maybe I can have it sitting too, like a hybrid. So I'm using a wire cutter just to cut because it's kind of a thicker wire they gave us. And I think it's a good idea to do the body too, because there's nothing for this to stay intact and we just put that alone. So I'm gonna twist it to fit the body. This wire is really hard to twist, so I think this is the best I can do. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of gauge it, and I'll probably cut it here and here so it's not extending out from the feet. Okay, so I have the body stuffed now. He's kind of chunky and I like it chunky. So just make sure your wire is like where it should be. You kind of feel it like in the leg right here and then in the arm. So I think that my next step is placing the head into the body. And luckily for me, I didn't sew this centerpiece really well. So there was like an organic hole for me to put in the washer. So you want to put in the stud and then the washer, and then this round piece right here is going to go into your neck piece. So it's going to go like into here. So I think what I need to do is sew this hole smaller, just how I did with this hole right here smaller, so that it can go so this washer can fit without falling out of it. Okay, I think I had the piece upside down, so I think I'm going to put this into the body and then I can cinch it like this, and then the head will snap on. Okay, I've sewn the hole on the neck as tightly as I can. So I'm going to put the fat part of the washer inside the head. And like I said, I had a hole in there by accident, but it was a happy accident. So then this neck piece, I'm going to try to snap it on. So maybe we'll put this on first into the hole, and then we'll snap this on. There you go, you hear it snap. It worked. See, now I'm gonna close her up and I'll be back. Okay, here's the final product. Here's Id. You can always take a brush and brush out the seams to get them fluffier. And she's slightly taller than Happiness. I think it's just how maybe my seam allowance or just the pattern, but it's not too bad. The only thing I noticed is the ring's a little smaller. But yeah, this is Id, my make your own Id. The feet does spin a little bit more than the real one, but that's not too bad.